Hi guys, again we are on the podcast. It's a DarMar podcast, and today I have amazing guest. His name is Colie, and he has been working in Ireland for 20 years. Now he is working on some other stuff. For example, one of them is Dune, which I'm sure that most of you know. Also, he is known for his amazing technique with spaceships that he posts very often on internet. And since recently, he joined our director guild. Hi, Colie.
Hey, how you doing, DarMar? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's such a pleasant surprise to have you here, and I'm so happy that you accepted to join. I'm sure that people will love to hear from you.
Oh, I can't wait to share. Thank you.
Today, as we talked, you're going to sketch something from us, right? And we will see your technique live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Nice. So, guys, for the start, I will show you Colie's work, and we will talk about his career because his career has been really big. He has been working for a long time in the industry, and I remember his work when I saw it the first time. I was blown away, especially with those mini tiny spaceships. But he does so much more, guys, and I think you will enjoy this stream a lot, and it's gonna be super fun. So, Colie,
Right.
where are you now located? What do you do? Where are you?
Uh,
What's the time there, and so on?
so yeah, it's about 10 a.m. in California. I'm in Northern California, which is where Lucasfilm and ILM's headquartered, and I worked with those guys for quite a while, um, doing doing a lot of mishmash of stuff. I've drawn all my life, and I was an architecture major in university. I went to school at a place called Clemson University on the East Coast, which is where I grew up. And I moved out west in 1996. So you guys can do the math and know that I am no young chick. And I've been out here ever since. So
Yeah, you're a veteran of the
but
industry, right? You're one of those
yeah, I'm a
guys that
veteran.
we looked up to. Us younger guys, we
I,
looked up to you. We wanted to be you.
Oh yeah, well, it's the industry's changed a lot since I moved in, man. I was fortunate enough to live in LA for a little bit and kind of really get a taste because I'm an architect, and then I moved to LA and kind of started into this industry and moved into learning a little bit of CG and a little bit of multimedia back in the day, which is, that's all gone now. The multimedia world is sort of gone. But I got a job. I entered a contest with one of my spaceships like a year and a half, 2 years into my career in LA, and I was loving LA. And uh, one of the judges happened to be John Knoll. And I
Oh,
don't know if you guys know who John Knoll is, but he's a visual effects supervisor, and I think he's got a CTO at ILM and Lucasfilm now. But he was visual effects supervisor on Return of the Jedi re-release. I think it was in '98 and 1998. And he asked me. I won the contest, oddly enough, with my ship, and he said, "Dude, why don't you come up and work with me and another little group called the Rebel Mac Unit at ILM?" And I was like, "Well, what is that?" And he said, "Well, we're using the same software that you use, and we're doing it outside of the pipeline at ILM." And it basically meant that we all had to know how to model, render, comp, do our own textures, and in a pinch, be able to kind of come up with an idea for a shot, you
hmm
know. And so, little storyboard here and there, but it was a very collaborative process. And of course, over time, big company like ILM, we get absorbed into the pipeline. But we did a lot of work on Phantom Menace, Men in Black, Attack of the Clones, that group,
some really big
that little
projects
set of
there.
movies.
Some really big projects there.
Totally big.
And totally
Yeah,
super big, not big, super big projects. Everybody's dream, I mean, to work on
yeah.
that.
Yeah, totally. It was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. And I learned a ton, man. I didn't have any kind of film background. I didn't have any design background outside of architecture. So I was really able to kind of move into this thing with, okay, I know how to sketch a little bit, and I'm gonna focus. And back in the day, we had DVDs, and there were director commentaries on the DVDs, and
Yeah.
I would buy the DVD and I would watch the commentary afterwards, and I learned a lot from. I was able to teach myself or become educated through those.
So you learn through DVDs and stuff like that. But what's interesting for me, you said, I know I read in your biography, and you said it now, that you studied architecture. How did that happen that you switched to the design and everything? What made you switch, actually? Because many people stay in their ground, where they stay in their field which they studied. What made you? Because my best friend, he's also an architect, and he studied architecture, and there is a specific taste in architect when he's designing. You know, it's a little bit different than design, and I think it blends super perfect in your spaceships. That's what I love about it's different. Colie, you there? Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, I think we lost Colie for a second. His internet died, but he's coming back, I'm sure. Let's check what's happening. My internet is working. Let me check what's happening. You should have seen his sketch, but let me call him again. In the meantime, you saw, guys, as we wait for Colie, I will entertain you. I'm bringing him on Skype. Something happened with his connection. But as you can see, guys, he went from architecture to concept design and stuff like that, and he has been working as a texture artist and compositor and modeler, everything. So I think that he can tell us a lot of stuff. I'm just checking where he is. So something happened with his internet. But let's see, mine is working properly. So just a little bit. I apologize for these technical problems. Oh, here he is calling me. Hey, Colie. No worries, we are back live, so no worries. Something happened, but all good.
Okay, well, that's not bad. We got that far without a hiccup. So,
I ask you, what was the last thing that you heard from me? Did you hear me the question?
Yeah, I got everything. So the architecture degree, that was me. My architecture degree was, I was in school during a period of time where architecture was becoming more experimental. It was the late 80s and early 90s, and there was a lot of money in the architectural world, and there were a bunch of architects doing some really experimental things, and they weren't just based around construction. They were based around theory and philosophy, and I really got into a lot of good reads on deconstructivism and post-structuralism, a lot of Russian avant-garde architecture that had a lot to do with cultural events and social events. And when I got out of school, I didn't get any of that stuff. So I was hungry. I was designing picket fences, and while that pays the bills, it wasn't quite giving me what I wanted. So I got an opportunity to move to LA and work on some stuff, and that's what I did.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So as far as the organizational, the design, what translated was the organizational quality of having to construct a whole set of drawings for a structure in architecture, and keeping it comprehensive and true to the design, which basically meant I was working both aesthetically and technically. That was a quick segue into what I was doing in LA, and even more so once I got to ILM.
So that competition, it opened you the doors. You won the competition, and that's how you entered the ILM.
Yeah.
Perfect, because I love that kind of stories, because as you said, you were hungry. and that made you work on that competition, right? Because I see a lot of artists that they want to do something, but they always want to do it in their field, and they are never thinking outside the box. And I really appreciate that you went and did the competition, because we can talk in that on that side of the work. And tell me, that hunger, did it make you? Did you always
Yeah.
have it, or it developed during time?
I think the hunger was always there, but I didn't, I grew up in a really rural area of South Carolina, which I don't know how many of your listeners are familiar with South Carolina, but it's a pretty rural area in the U.S. And to get out of there was never really a dream, but other people saw that I had some things that other industries might enjoy. And so once I was exposed to that, architecture was my first foray into, oh my gosh, I can be hungry for this. Then it was visual effects and design in LA. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, people know how to use me for this. So the fact that I was getting paid to do something that I had a passion for was very attractive to me. And I've leveraged all of it as best I can to continue to improve and kind of reinvent the passion, if that makes any sense. So, oddly enough, everything's kind of gotten smaller for me because I work on, as you can see, I'm working on a Post-it note right now. So, and I work on my iPhone a lot, and I work on my iPad a lot. And so I've really tried to shrink or not necessarily grow my mobility by decreasing the size of things that I need to work with.
I see. So you are trying to make it work everywhere that you go on the spot, so you can use your pen. Yeah, that's amazing, because you're still implementing. I'm showing your work, and there is a Kuka dog in your work, and it's fascinating to me how you switch from the initial sketch to the rendering. It's very, very unique style. Also, I love your design. That there is a lot of slim, sleek shapes. I read somewhere that you use a lot of inspiration. The cars, they inspire you and stuff.
Oh, like that. Yeah. You want me to run through some of my images?
Sure, we can do it like that. I'm running through your images. If you're speaking about ArtStation, I'm showing it. But of course, we can run through your. I will. Or you can also start sketching for us, whatever works for you. And
I don't know what everybody can see right now, so
they're looking at your work on ArtStation, and now I will show them your screen, what you are sharing. Just a second.
Oh, okay.
So they can see.
Okay, so you can.
So
you can see my screen now, right?
Yes, we see your screen.
Right on, man. So, okay, so
perfect.
I'm going to show you guys some of the. Here's an example of what you were talking about, where I did a sketch on a Post-it note and then did a paint over on my phone and my iPad. So that's another. And here's a CG model. Thanks. Beautiful. And here's a CG model. And I did the rest of this either on my phone or my iPad. But my goal is to be able to work in line at a coffee shop. If I can do that, then I'm in a good spot. So this was all iPhone. This was iPad and iPhone. This was iPad.
You really love sketching vehicles. What I know you for is that vehicle design. And where is the inspiration? Where does it come from?
Oh, so the Kuka dog. Well, I'll get to that in a second. So we got the Kuka dog. We got a MiG that I was sketching. This is where I started to realize this. This is like early art that I'd done for this Egypt airship that everybody, over the years, people have really kind of attached this image to me, which I find really interesting. Everybody remembers it when I repost it. They're like, oh, I reposted it again. And I'm like, damn it, they remember. So you can see the little sketch that I did on it wasn't a Post-it, but it was nothing. Crap paper. And then I was like, holy crap, I'll just take that and move it into Maya and do a quick model and see how far we get. So right away, I was able to go from a quick idea to a fully built model in like a day. And I think I even pulled this into body paint.
That was all done in one day. All was done in one day.
Yeah,
And it went
yeah.
from that initial sketch that you did on a pen paper, if I'm sure. It's a small sketch, and then you moved
Yeah.
to 3D modeling. So Maya is your weapon of choice.
Maya is definitely my weapon of choice for laying out stuff, but I'm expanding, and Maya puts all my models in a in kind of a category where they're moving toward bulletproof. And when I say bulletproof, I mean I can hand it off to a studio that has a VFX department, and they're on their way. Because when I worked at ILM for so many years, that I got a lot of habits that that might slow me down in concept art, but are definitely on the back end will allow people to grab the model and go, "Hey, it's almost done."
I see.
And I'm having to actually get sloppier in my modeling, to be honest with you. This model is almost bulletproof, and it really shouldn't be, and it doesn't have to be for concept art.
But it's nice to have a
Russian
bulletproof
tank.
model. It's always nice to see when
Yeah,
something is done at that high level.
yeah. I think I just posted this thing a few days ago. I took a photograph. I drove down the beach, drove down the coast in California, and took a photo of a beach, and just turned it into something else.
This is amazing. I love this image. Is beautiful for me. Beautiful. Look at the shapes,
Thanks,
guys.
dude.
Look at the shapes.
Yeah,
how beautiful they are.
girlfriend.
Where does
My
your
girlfriend
inspiration come from? Sorry.
This inspiration?
Yeah, where do you
Well,
get
it was
those
really
shapes and stuff? That's what I want to hear, because look, you have such a sleek shapes, elongated, beautiful lines. Where do you find that inspiration from them? What drives you to sketch it like that?
well. One of the things about working in the film industry is you don't just get to design in thin air, or you don't get to design with an open book. Sometimes you only have a plate to work with. So the people will go out, the DP, the director, they go out, they shoot, and they hand you a plate. They say, okay, well, we need to put a spaceship in this plate in post-production. Well, you got to come up with a shape that works with the composition of the plate that they've given you. So in this particular image, you have a field. There was a field, there was a little outcropping of rocks in the water, and then there was a lighthouse on a little hill over there. That's all I had to work with. So one of the ways that I come up with some of the shapes is I'll go, okay, well, this is the composition is already kind of started. How do I enhance the composition? And I'll add shapes inside of Procreate on the iPad or my iPhone, and I'll just start figuring out what shapes work inside the image, inside the plate, and that's one of the ways that I kind of start narrowing down a certain shape. Then I try and think, okay, well, how do I get somebody going, into this image, or how do I get their eyes to not just look at it as a flat image? So I take these shapes and I just stack them from front to back, and then they kind of take up a rhythm in and of themselves, and then I added a path, and that kind of takes you in, and then I gave it some scale with my girlfriend. So, and then I added some foreground elements. There were no trees there, but a few little foreground elements just kind of help give you some depth as you go into this space. And there's a lot. It's easy to kind of imagine there being a port somewhere out, along the coast. They kind of keep the coastline legit, and they hold on to the lighthouse. But these are giant shipping, Maersk shipping vehicles. So it's I don't know. I like Neil Blomkamp. I like the way that he thinks. So he uses Johannesburg, South Africa, as kind of a cultural and social starting point for a lot of his work, and a lot of his designs that come from necessities on living and surviving in Johannesburg. So that ties back into my architectural background, because I'm having to look at the context, not just of an image, but the context of a cultural or social setting. So if you're anyone familiar with the Bay Area, which is where I live in California, it's really high tech. It's it's Facebook. it's Twitter, it's Google, it's Pinterest, it's all that stuff. A lot of money and a lot of biotech. So a lot of the beauty of the area is sort of getting slightly eroded because so many people are moving here. So to imagine, and which is part of the Bloomberg and the high-tech lighting, this person's walking along what's supposed to be a really mundane, not mundane, but beautiful coast, and there's news everywhere she goes. She's able to walk this path, and there's shipping out there. So, maybe 20, 30 years in the future, this is the peaceful place. This is what a peaceful place looks like.
I see. And you worked on one of the most famous movies, and that's Star Wars, right? In ILM when you were there.
Yep.
What was your assignment there? I know that you went through many fields and you did different type of stuff.
I modeled a bunch of ships on episode 1, and I think my favorite ship ever, I think Doug Chang designed it, is the Sith Infiltrator. That was a good one. I built the Naboo Starfighter. I built the Sith Probe Droid. I built some pods. It's great because I learned, when you work on someone else's design, and this is a good tip. When you build someone else's design, you learn that design to the bone, and it becomes part of you. I can't recommend people that are in hard surface to go out and build someone else's design, like build a car that Pininfarina designed, or build an airplane from a certain era. You start to understand the construction. Yeah, you start to understand the construction techniques as well as the aesthetics that were involved. And, did the aesthetic come from function, or was the aesthetic just for fun? And, you start to develop a library of information in your head.
Yeah, I completely agreed, Andrew, with you, because I modeled some of the famous vehicles, and you start feeling what designer felt, what he did while he was working on that, and you start understanding his logic and how to implement it. I think it's the same when you use the Photoshop file of some person, and then you go through the layers, and you're like, whoa, I would never think of this, and I would never do it like this. This is amazing. Oh, look at this
definitely
racer.
use other. Yeah, definitely. This is a cop.
It's
Police.
beautiful. It's
Policio.
beautiful. Policio.
Thanks. Yeah. So I like imagining somewhere in Italy in the future, because they have Lamborghinis occasionally show up in police. The police will have a police Lamborghini in Italy. I know the Gallardo had a couple of versions of the police look. So I'm just imagining. Maybe in the future they've got Pininfarina designed, motorcycles.
Yeah. That is
dressed
possible.
up.
It's completely possible in 20, 30 years.
Yeah. So yeah, this is another, sketch done on a sketch piece of paper, and then hack it over into my iPad.
You always
so I'm very I try and be.
You always work in Procreate when you are working, or this is a Reventon, right? This is a Reventon that you showed the image of the car. Is it a Reventon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
This is actually, I think this was the first Huracan I saw.
Nice.
This was, like I said, I live in the Bay Area, and there's a ton of money in the Bay Area. And so you go anywhere, you're going to see a Lambo. It's not like London where they're everywhere, but the chance of seeing an exotic car are not hard. And I actually live near a Porsche and Ferrari dealership. So anytime I want to go look at cool shapes, I can go and check it out and just take pictures. They all know me there, and they know that I'm not shopping. I'm just taking pictures. So they leave me alone.
They're hoping that one day you will shop. That's the logic.
Yeah, they know. They say, "Oh God, you're in the movies. You must make $1 million a year." And I said, "Think again. I'm just shooting." So, but yeah, I like to take pictures of things. I like taking pictures of things and take them out of their element. Like this is from another Huracan that I saw, and I don't know exactly where that is. I think it might be the engine bay, but it doesn't matter. I just like seeing how the shapes work with different lighting and reflections, and And I'm not shy about walking up to somebody and going, dude, nice car, can I shoot it? And they'll go, I'm not sure why, but yeah, sure. So um
Are you an
I just
extrovert? Are you an extrovert by person or introvert?
a little bit of both.
Same
I think I'm
here.
probably more extroverted than I give myself credit for, but I definitely enjoy my private time. I mean, we all do, right? We
Yeah.
need to sit down and crank.
Now, when you said it,
So
now when you mentioned that a lot of artists are introverts, and now when you mentioned you go and you ask somebody to take a photo of the cars, that's very extroverted. For me, it's very interesting because most of the artists that I meet, they're very introverted. So yeah.
okay, so I'll show you this. I haven't posted this yet, so this is like sneak preview on the
Oh,
DarMar.
look at this, guys.
So 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 occasionally I won't sketch. I'll just start modeling.
Okay.
And so I designed this TIE fighter that, if you can imagine 20 or 30 of them sitting in a field somewhere, they they have protection over them, right? They've got these wing things over them, and they would graphically, if you made a bunch of them together and lined them up, they'd look really cool from above, below, or not below, but above and from the side, and you can just imagine a really cool film shot. So I do a quick animation of how it would unfold
So
and
cool, so
fly.
cool, so. Look at the shapes, guys. How beautiful they are and how they blend together. This is amazing, Colie. Thank you so much for showing this.
Yeah, I'll post this eventually. I just haven't done enough paint work on it to launch it out on ArtStation. So this is kind of an example of how I like to just, okay, well, I'm going to learn, what am I going to learn? I think I wanted to learn Moy because Vitali used Moy. I'm like, well, if that guy's getting these shapes out of Moy, I need to learn that. And sure
Yeah,
enough, it was a lot of fun.
I
Um,
I suggest you to move
so
to
here's
the dark
another.
side, Blender.
I
That's
haven't
my suggestion.
Oh yeah, yeah. So this is another image that I haven't posted yet.
Okay.
I sketched this like 2 days ago, and I want to post it while I was on a phone call or rendering, and I was pretty stoked about it. So I took a picture of it and went out to dinner and started, you know, making an image. So
Ooh.
this is where it ends up. So yeah,
They're all
so
pretty
that's all
fast
done.
done, right? You do them pretty fast. Is there a timer that you have when you are doing them? You tell yourself, I will do it for 15, 20 minutes, or you just do them as much as it's needed to be done, or there is a timer for you? How does it go?
This is usually the timer. That guy right there is probably 10 minutes.
I see.
So I try not to get too particular about things. I just try, they're not pulling on the internet, but
My
um,
internet died. I don't know why, what happened, but now it's my fault. I don't know what happened. Sorry for that. Okay, we are back.
it's okay. All right. Can you see me?
Yeah, yeah, I see you. We are back.
Okay. So
We
you
are.
got my screens up?
Yeah, yeah, we are back.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. So this is like 10 minutes. This one really doesn't have a time limit. I just make it work. And I push it and push it and push it until I'm happy with it. And I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but there's an
Yeah, yeah.
area back in here. All right, cool. And I chopped it off right from this one, back and forth.
I see. I see. So,
I
so
just wasn't working.
yeah,
And I'm cool with that. So what I do with these things is I learn to give myself permission to change them. I don't try and stick with it exactly. I just let my own art inspire me. And that's the difference between having to work on something that, like, if you're working on a specific design for a movie or you're working on something that someone else has designed, you got to stick to it and you got to keep the spirit. But when you're just playing, I allow myself I give myself permission to experiment. And so that's how these things come about.
did you have any mentors
But
while you were in ILM when you were doing on other fields that taught you how to design, or you picked up on their tricks? Was there any specific person that
I
yeah?
I'd say probably the most influential person design-wise for me. Well, there's two. One is a director in LA named Andrew Hardaway, and he got a design background in Culver City and at a place called SciArc. And he and I got on really well, and he he gave me a lot of insight on how to push myself in design, and uh, as well as learn how to call something good enough and done. And those are two, I'd say learning how to call something good enough and done is one of the hardest things that you can, so one of the hardest things to do as an artist or a designer, because, you know, if you push it too far, you lose the intent and it gets too busy. And if you don't push it far enough, then you haven't communicated. So you can over communicate and under communicate. And the real effort or the real goal is to hit the sweet spot right in the middle.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel pretty good about being able to hand someone this and go, you know what? Model that. Let's talk. Spend half a day on it, model it. Let's see what kind of proportions you come up with. And then I could do a little bit more work, do this. But if I'm communicating to a modeler, through a sketch that only, that I don't have to sit down and model, then we're going to get together and we're going to move further ahead faster.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to stay in design and be happy with the outcome. So communication is pretty much what it's all about. Is my design or is my sketch communicating what I want someone to see, or be able to read.
I'm glad that you said that, because today there is a big problem. 10 years ago, there was a problem with software. You couldn't do anything you wanted fast. So there was a problem in the restriction with the software, what you can model, what you can design in the sketch and so on. The technology has evolved incredibly in 10 years. Then in the last 5 years, it's insane how much it evolved. And I see a lot of work that you said that is overdone. Too many details, too much stuff. Like people now need to relax to their design. There is too much commotion happening on it. And my eye is just going from one side to another, and I don't know where to stop. So I'm very, very happy that you mentioned that, because, for example, when I work sometimes in ZBrush, I have that problem because I'm too relaxed and I start putting too much details and stuff like that.
Lost you.
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah.
We can see your screen and sketching.
You sketch a little bit?
Okay, we see it all good.
Okay. All right. So I'll just kind of give you guys an idea of how I'll sketch. Well, I guess first of all, it would be kind of cool. So I'll show you the tools of the trade, right? So this pencil is like 85 cents. It's just some basic blue pencil. So you get a blue line.
Okay.
And I like that because yeah. And so the next thing I go to is it's called a zebra pen. I think it's different than what everybody else looks at as a zebra pen, but it's just like an F701. It feels pretty good. You can buy it at a drugstore. And then the only thing you got to go to the art store for is like a Tombow marker.
Can you just move the camera a little bit, because it's still blurring. It's making still a little bit up. If you can move it, if it's not a problem for you, because it's still making blur.
Okay.
Just a little bit, if it's not a problem.
Okay. So it's still blurry. Okay, let me see if I can move it up.
A little bit. It should get better now.
How's that?
That is much better.
Can you read that?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, cool.
Perfect, thank you.
Right on.
Sorry for interrupting, but I just needed to say so.
Okay, so yeah. So there's my ballpoint pen, which is, I don't use gel pens. They smear, so I just use a ballpoint pen, and you know what that is. And then
it was the main weapon. It was the main weapon of any designer, the ballpoint pen. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this Tombow, I mean, you can even see the number there. It's called the N75. It's just a cool gray.
Okay.
So I just picked these colors because they look good on the yellow of the Post-it. And, this is my Post-it, just a stack. I even draw on this.
Oh, that's small.
So, yeah. So I'll show you how, I can, let's see, what kind of ship we're going to make.
That's so small. I mean, it's really good for shapes and stuff like that, but I need to do more of this now. When I saw this, you inspired me like to do smaller ones. The sketches are always, for me, the most important and most exotic thing about design. When I see this, I see the personality of designer and how he thinks. And look, you designed a spaceship
Yeah.
in 3 seconds, literally. Like.
Okay, so you guys, can you see that?
Yes, yes, perfect, perfect.
All right, so
Nice.
then I'll go, okay, well, let's model this. And now I'm moving into a modeling phase. All right, so now I'm starting to show people what this guy might actually look like that. So then I kind of put, from the time that I stopped sketching that like that, I move into I put the cap on the pen, and then I take a quick look at it, and I try not to get too wound up or fixed on the design. I give myself a little bit of freedom to
update it. And
yeah.
how do you keep away from doing the same things all over again? Because a lot of designers, they get that memory, the brain arm movement, and they
Uh-huh.
start doing the same thing. How do you avoid that?
That's one way.
Oh, okay, okay.
Just,
Yeah.
so now I can.
It's a different spaceship immediately.
Yeah, and then I'm also not afraid to do things like this.
Mm. Oh yeah.
So
Getting outside of the box, guys. You have example right here how to do it.
so now I can, because it's ink, I know it's going to smear. So and that's how big it is. And I don't like these wings, but that's okay. I'll go back the other way.
Yeah.
And if I still don't like the wings, I know that I can get rid of them. And I'll take a picture like this. So here's my iPhone, all right? And then I just zoom in like that. So now I've got it scanned. And I'll see how this works, if this will actually show up. Can you see what I'm up to?
Yes, it's perfect. Clean.
Awesome. So cool.
Which software do you use? Procreate? Is it the Procreate?
Yeah, I just use Procreate.
And you do it on your small phone. You don't use iPad or anything. You use your small phone.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I just my small phone. So here's my I'll import it. So
this is for now that you are showing this. This is for every designer, guys, out there. I hope that a lot of people watch this, and this is for every designer that says doesn't have equipment and stuff like that. Because look, Colie is doing it on iPhone. It is looking like $1,000,000. Look at how cool it is.
Okay, so we've got it in. I've asked Procreate to move some of that stuff, but they haven't quite done it yet. So we'll make it a little more interesting by doing that. And then I'll use my smudge. Actually, I wanted to get rid of those wings, right? We talked about that. So I'm going to check my brushes. Yep, that's good. I don't use any crazy brushes either, guys. I just don't. So now I'm erasing that wing because it wasn't all that great.
Yeah, it didn't work.
No, it didn't work. That's all right. Worth a try. We flipped the paper, and then I'll smudge all this stuff out so I don't have to look at all that crap. And I'm not being too precious. I mean, that's kind of the thing that I really like about this stuff, because I'm not having to plan a whole lot. And then it's in Procreate, I make a new layer, right? And now I'll go back over here, and to keep my drawing
Guys, while
I
you're
like the
watching
idea.
this, please do ask some questions if you have, because today's stream is gonna be around 1 hour and 10 minutes because Colie has to go, but he's showing already a lot of stuff. So if you have some questions, ask him. Sorry for interrupting, Colie. I just
Yeah,
needed to tell you.
really, yeah, and I can talk while I can talk while I'm sketching here,
Sure.
but I did want to show you guys like how this works. So look at what I'm doing now is I'm adding highlights just by simply sampling on the color of the background, which is already established from the photo, and then just brightening it up a little bit. And now I've got my highlights starting to happen. And
The first thing that you put is highlights.
not necessarily. I don't really feel like I have to do any one thing first, but I think like a modeler in this stuff, and I know what I'd like to what's going to help the design the best, or the most with the least amount of effort.
Yeah.
And I'm exploring too. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. This is just kind of coming out of my head, and so as I go, I'm changing a lot. I'm changing thicknesses of things, but most of the colors are already established. Like this was that marker color. So if I want to come back and hit some areas with that marker color, I created my marker color early. Maybe there's some bounce light coming up from the ground.
Mm-hmm. Look, guys, mobile phone and pen paper, 4 pens, no need for expensive stuff, and you get $1 million bucks image. Look how he's doing it with his fingers. He's painting with his fingers. You don't need a vacuum or anything like. Oh my God, this is so cool.
Yeah, so now I'm glad you like it, dude. And it's fun to do this. I haven't ever done this before, so this is like world premiere style stuff.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I don't like this thing at the bottom, and so instead of remodeling, I don't really have to deal with anything. I'm gonna go back to my. Yeah, I like that a little bit better, and then I'll add some wings like that, and I've established what the light is like coming down on this stuff, so I'll add that. I got my marker color here. I just come back in, add that, and I know I got my bounce color coming from the ground. Add that. So, and I don't like that, so we're getting rid of that. And this kind of stuff's really valuable on a quick communication. If somebody says, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Well, now you've got this really great tool that you can use to. There you go. Maybe that's something to go with. And like I said, I don't plan the stuff out. Sometimes they suck, and sometimes they don't. And even if I don't use this, I've probably learned a little something just by having gone through the process. So there's a little ship, and let's see, maybe we can say, okay, well, I want some intakes here. And now I've got a little intake, and I'll accentuate that intake by hitting it like that.
Okay.
And saying that. And let's give it a little bit bigger base. And smudge that out.
Yeah, we already see the shapes and everything. The modeler can take it and design it. You can see that you have the background in modeling. That's super important. When you know 3D, you establish the forms much easier, and you can give this sketch, which was done in a very short amount of time, and the modeler can take it and design it.
Yeah, I don't. I actually have enjoyed watching other people take my designs and read into them, because that allows me to know how well I'm communicating my idea, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like other people's reads. It's important to me, because, like I said, I'm I'm only part of the process. You know, the whole collaborative process is when we all get together and I'll switch brushes. So I've only been in this one brush. It's called Kaczynski ink,
Hmm.
and it's really the only one I need to use. But when I'm working at a pretty small size now, so I'll come in and add a cable, and maybe it needs a cable here.
Yeah. While you're watching, guys, hit the subscribe button because there will be coming a lot of more artists that will show us other techniques, and Colie is doing an amazing job here. Look, it's I can read all the shapes, and I'm super fascinated by this because couple of strokes, that's all you need. iPhone, 4 pens, and you have established design to show to a client or to a producer that's gonna work on it. It's amazing. By the way, Colie, we have questions. Can you
Shoot them. Let's talk.
Perfect.
I'll keep working.
So Don is asking. Hi Don. He is asking. Did your love for vehicles come from the start, or did you develop it while you were working on the episode 1 and stuff like that?
Oh, that's a great question. It started with episode 1. I was working with Doug Chang, and Doug has a heavy industrial design background. So the demands that he had on the modeling group they were really, really high, and so I had to understand why shapes blended. And once I realized that he had gone to a certain type of design school, I started to go, oh my God, this is serious. This is pretty serious education that I just don't have. So I started looking at, he would give me an example of what he was wanting, and I would go and look at, say, he liked Art Deco. He was really into Art Deco for a lot of stuff on episode 1. And so I started studying Art Deco buildings, and I could begin to understand how he was using Art Deco buildings to inspire a lot of his designs, as well as Art Deco sculpture and Art Deco stained glass. Just a lot of stuff was being borrowed. And when you mix and match different styles, or you mix and match different eras, some nice things can happen, and that's what he was doing. But I knew I had to educate myself, and the vehicles are kind of a byproduct because everywhere you go, they're cars.
Uh-huh.
And you can study cars anytime you want, especially with the internet. I use Net Car Show to look at cars. That is the car document for me.
They are
It's
amazing.
called Net Car.
Yeah, Netcar Show is amazing. There is also Caricos, because we couldn't use the Netcar Show when I designed in Italy, but there was Caricos, Carcos. So there was
Oh, okay.
they are the same, and yeah, that's amazing because you can literally see all the detail of any car that comes out. And I will post to the viewers so they can see both of them. I mean, it's amazing when you look at it. You see the grill, you see that the tiny elements and bevels and everything. So that's great reference for people.
All right. Next question. Do we have any more?
Of course, they are asking. They're enjoying the stream a lot. So let me check. There is Martin. He's asking who inspires you. What's the new tricks have you recently learned from other artists? Are there any tricks that you learned from the other artists by watching them?
Well, I am a big proponent of Instagram. I use Instagram a lot, and I use there's this guy named Darko. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. He's pretty good at what he does. I look at his
Never
stuff.
heard about him. He is also bad guy. He's also a very bad guy. I never like him. Who can be a normal guy that has an orange wall behind him? Nobody. Thank you so much for that.
No, I honestly, I look at everybody's work. I like ArtStation a lot, and I just try and keep up with who's doing what with what. And in the end, everybody's really stoked about certain new pieces of software. Blender's big right now. It's inexpensive, and I look and see what people are coming up with as they use these pieces of software. And everybody's so excited to use the new software. They're coming up with decent efforts in design. So to answer the question about who inspires me, I let everyone inspire me. I am trying to do more of my own. I am trying to do more work on trying to tell a story in a piece of work, and which I think is starting to show up in, you've seen a few of my pieces, like the woman walking on the beach and stuff like that. So I'm trying to pay attention to composition and storytelling in my art. So I'll look at people like Craig Mullins, who is an incredible artist. I mean, anyone who has studied. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. I was getting the poor connection. Blink.
Do you plan, when you spoke about that you're doing more the story and showing off the story, are you planning on doing some kind of IP of yours, maybe a book or something like that?
I think down the line, I'd like to get a couple of books out with the past year that I've had with regards to Dune and a few other little projects. It's been a little tough to do the scanning that I need to do. But, hold on. I think I just turned my flashlight on. Let me turn that thing off.
Okay.
But, so you can kind of see what is happening here. So there's that sketch.
Yeah, it really performs everything.
I could keep going on this thing, but usually what I'll do at this point is I'll either call it done, or I'll ask myself, what can I do to take it one more level? And one of the things I like to do is just suggest that there's a little bit of a sky. So I'll grab this and...
How did you learn colors, by the way? Because your color palettes are always on the spot. They inspire me a lot. How did you learn? Was there any special way that you went? Did you study masters? Or it's just from the analyzing the nature and everything? How did it go?
A lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a picture in nature, and then I'll bring it into whatever paint package I'm using, like this.
Okay.
I don't know what the color is per se, but I know that if I sample it, it's going to be that color, So I'm not reinventing the wheel with composition, or not composition, but color. I'm just using what's out there. It's, to me, I mean, I have a lot of fun learning about it, but it's not. I don't study color. So to be honest.
Speaking about news, you entered Art Guild, right? And I saw your post yesterday about that. Congrats on that. How did that happen?
Thanks.
That's amazing news. It's super big news. But I waited for a perfect moment to ask you.
Oh yeah. Well, I was working on Dune, and they were happy with my work, and they asked the Art Directors Guild if I could be, a part of it, so that I could help, continue to help on Dune. And I was able to work as an off-roster hire. And when you're working as an off-roster hire, you're able to accrue hours towards getting into the union, the Art Directors Guild, and that's how that happened. I was working with some really, really talented guys, George Hall, and the production designers, Patrice Vermette, and they've worked with Denis in the past.
Okay.
And so I was just part of a really good team, and they wanted to continue using me, so that's how I got in.
George Hall is the designer of Matrix, right at the box, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
he's one of them. Yeah, he's George has been a real inspiration for me in so many ways. He's incredibly talented, and he's also incredibly professional
He
in his approach
his work is
to
amazing.
dealing with.
I remember it. Amazing. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, that's all right. And you know, honestly, he's only gotten better. He's gotten far more into 3D and is just a real joy to work with. He and I worked hand in hand on a lot of the design stuff in Dune, and you know, it's just been great. You know, we've been wanting to work together for a long time, and either my schedule or his schedule just never permitted it because I was always at ILM or and he would want me to help him out. I think we got to do a little bit on Jupiter Ascending,
Oh,
but not much. And so this time we did get to work together a bit. So I should just mail this to you.
definitely. Please do. Please do. I will post it on my Facebook and Instagram. It's amazing. I love it.
All right, give me one more question, and then that'll take
We
us to close to.
to the end. We will need to finish soon, guys. So this more question and probably one more we can answer, and then we are done. The question
Yeah,
that
sorry about this. Maybe I can come back another time and talk with you guys.
absolutely we will make part two. This was amazing. We need to make part two, or they will kill me if I don't bring you again. So they are asking.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
They are asking about. They are asking if the industry is getting oversaturated, and is it getting hard to get into the industry? I mean by question, it is of course getting oversaturated. I can tell you that. But what I want to recompo that question. The question is there a lot of quality in the industry to enter, or there is still that gap? If you have a high quality, you will enter. That's my question, because the answer, if it's oversaturated, it is oversaturated. So do you think it's easy to enter the industry, or it's hard nowadays?
It depends on what you kind of call the industry. You know, there's concept art, and then there's VFX. So VFX right now favors the you can take back, or actually I'll since I'm sharing my screen, I'll let's see. Sorry, dude.
No worries, we're here.
Okay.
You want to share your screen, okay?
Yeah, is it being shared?
You need to turn off your camera. Perfect. It's sharing now. It's sharing.
What it is.
Perfect.
Okay. Now we got it?
Yes.
Awesome. I'll just thumb through these again so that you guys can see it. Anyway, I think if you know what you want to do, you better be really good at it. If you're a modeler, you need to be really good at it. And if you are a texture painter, you need to be really good at it. And you also need to understand that real time is for real. And people are keeping a real close eye on the quality of Unreal or Unity versus CG insofar as early development of shots. And I think in the future you'll see like real-time recording of movies. I do. Yeah. And so understanding that and understanding the gaming industry and how you can marry film and gaming is huge now. I think they're gonna, if you don't think they're gonna blur, then you're already behind, because it is happening.
They're already blurring, that's for sure. That's for sure. Like,
yeah, so I'd say, understand, keep an eye on all the new tools that people are using, and like Darko, you and I use different tools, and we do the same thing, right? Yeah. So it's not necessarily about the tool; it's about what the tool is being used to communicate, and that's always been my take on things. I wouldn't try and model this in Moy. Like, yeah. I know the tool I need to use model this. My first pick would be Alias, but not a lot of people use Alias anymore. So I go, okay, well, if I use Alias, I can get it over into Maya and it'll be good. So that's a problem that we used to have 15 years ago. And that's not a problem we have anymore. You don't have to use only one tool. You can use the best tool.
Yeah, they're working all together now. They are all working together now. 5 years ago, they didn't work together. You couldn't import into 3D Studio Max good geometry from Maya. Now everything is working perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hate to cut it short, but I have to go to see my kids' school for something. So it's not very glamorous, but I can't wait to go. So
the stream was glamorous. The stream was glamorous, Colie. We enjoyed it a lot.
Well, I'm glad, man. I appreciate you asking me to come on, and I'm happy to come on again. And if you have questions, if you guys have other questions, maybe shoot them Darko's way, and I'll do my best to answer them. But Darko, is a real pleasure, and
the pleasure was mine.
We'll catch up.
The pleasure was mine, Colie. Thank you so much for coming and showing all of this cool stuff.
You got it.
Thanks, man.
All right, bud. All right.
Bye, Colie. Bye.